Hey everybody, Chris Quarto here, and thanks again for joining me for another episode of the Adult Autism, a Spectrum of Uniqueness podcast. Now, last week I published a podcast episode that's on YouTube as well, where I introduced something called the Anchor Framework. It's a simple step-by-step method to help you cope with things like sensory overwhelm, social challenges, especially masking, difficulty with transitions and other things that, might stress you out. It's comprised of four components: notice and naming, which is this question of what's happening inside me right now that doesn't feel good or that's making me feel off or unsteady or overwhelmed. Regulate, which is what can help me feel safer or more steady. In other words, more anchored in this situation. Clarify, which is what do I need right now to feel regulated or steadier? And also, what matters to me most in terms of how I want to live my life or how I want to be in situations like this? And then act, which is what's one small step I can take right now that fits best with my needs and my values. Now, I created a practical, detailed document that outlines how you can use the Anchor framework that I'm happy to provide to you. And I'll leave a link in the show notes so you can get it. Now, maybe you've already tried it. Maybe you didn't. But either way, I want to talk to you today about some common obstacles you might encounter when you're trying to use the Anchor framework and what you can do to make it work for you. Okay, so here's the first thing that can pose a problem, and that is I know what the framework is, but I can't bring myself to use it. Motivation, it's a weird thing. You might totally get the idea behind the Anchor framework. You might even believe that it could help you. But when push comes to shove and you're in the midst of a spiral or a shutdown, it just doesn't happen. You don't end up using it. So here's the deal. Using a new strategy doesn't usually feel natural right away. Your brain might be throwing up red flags like, hey, don't waste your energy on this. You've tried this kind of stuff before, it didn't work. And that's just your brain trying to protect you. But here's a little reframe that you might try. You don't have to be convinced it'll work. You just have to try it anyway. Think about it as a mini experiment to see what happens. And if you find that the anchor framework will work good, or at least good enough to move you from completely overloaded or stressed out to slightly less overloaded or stressed out, then it'll be worth it. It's a small win. And that's what'll motivate you to use it again when you need to in the future. Now, here's another obstacle that you might encounter. I used the anchor framework a few times, but then I forgot about it. That's totally normal. New habits take time, especially ones that involve noticing what's going on within your body or your brain, as well as doing things that are most important to you, what's called values-based action. So here's what can help in this situation. Cues, Cues, cues. And what I'm referring to here is using something physical as a reminder to use the framework. So, for example, take a screenshot of the anchor framework. Let me see if I have a copy. Yep, right here on my desk. If you're watching on YouTube, you can see that I'm holding up the Anchor framework that has notice, regulate, clarify, and act on it. So you could use it. You could take a screenshot, save it as wallpaper, the background image on your phone as a reminder. You could write yourself a reminder on a sticky note and place it, I don't know, on a bathroom mirror or somewhere else. Or you could even print out the framework and stick it in your bag or your car, a desk drawer, whatever works for you. I'll place a link to that picture in the show notes so you can download it if you'd like to. Now, here's the last obstacle. I don't always know what I'm feeling or what I even need. Yep, that was huge, especially if you struggle with something called interoception, which is your awareness of your internal body states like hunger or temperature or pain and discomfort. Emotions figure into this too. I talked about this in a previous podcast episode. It's episode 21, if you haven't listened to that one yet. Sometimes your needs and your physical and emotional feelings go hand in hand. Like, have you ever felt irritable when you're hungry? And if so, that's your cue. That's your internal signal that you need to fill a need. In this case, you need to feed yourself. Now, you can work on becoming more aware of these by starting super small, like um, I'm noticing that my chest feels tight. That started happening when I went out to lunch with my coworkers. Maybe I'm feeling anxious. Or, why am I holding my breath? Or, my jaw's clenched. I wonder if that had anything to do with that conversation I had with Jason when he told me he didn't think I was pulling my weight on our project. So it's easiest to set an alarm on your watch or your phone so you can do some quick body scans throughout the course of the day to determine how you're feeling physically or emotionally and how that might be related to a need. This isn't something that takes a lot of time. You can quickly just kind of scan your body to see what's going on. So I always find it useful to reflect on experiences, especially when I'm first learning how to do something like using the anchor framework. Here's some good reflection questions that might work for you along these lines. Now, in terms of the motivation issue, what would make it easier for me to try the anchor framework when I'm overwhelmed, even if I'm not sure it'll help? And with regard to remembering to use it, what could I do to make the anchor framework more visible or top of mind in my daily life so I'll remember to use it? Or maybe, what's worked for me in the past when I needed to remember to do something? And self-awareness, what's one need, physical or psychological, emotional, I often overlook that might really help me if I paid more attention to it. So the Anchor framework is just one of many practical tools I offer to autistic folks. There's nothing magic about it, by the way, but it can help, especially when things feel uncertain or unsteady or overwhelming, and you need to anchor yourself. And as I mentioned before, if you'd like a detailed explanation of the Anchor framework and how to use it, you can access it for free by signing up for my newsletter, and I'll put that link to that below. I'm also developing an online course for newly diagnosed autistic adults that gets into things like masking and relationships, emotional regulation, and living more authentically. And I'll keep you updated on that in future podcast episodes. Thanks again for listening or watching on YouTube. And remember that your uniqueness is awesome.